And we're pleased to welcome from Washington Democratic political consultant Christian Hanley. Thank you for being with us here on France 24.
Thank you for having me.
Before we talk about the context, it's more than a steady drip. It's a gush of revelations every day these days. Let's talk specifically about the Clintons. We heard the chair of that Oversight Committee. Again, you heard that clip of him saying that no one's accusing him at this point of any wrongdoing. He even later on went on to say that, yes, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's been convicted for abetting Jeffrey Epstein, that she went to the Clintons' daughter's wedding, but there were a lot of people at the wedding. Your thoughts on how much the Clintons have to answer for?
I mean, just the implication of being named in the files is something that they're going to need to address quite obviously. Like you said, so far there has been no specific accusation or allegation against either one of the Clintons being deposed this week. But the implication, of course, is not great. Anyone who had any sort of proximity to Epstein or his inner circle there should want to clear their names. It's remains to be seen what's going to actually be accomplished today. As we just heard, Hillary Clinton has already said publicly several times that she has no recollection of ever meeting Jeffrey Epstein. Friday's deposition with former President Bill Clinton will be somewhat historic, and for that someone of my age or older, certainly, it's sort of evocative of the 1990s and the Lewinsky scandal, when he famously was brought under oath to testify about that scandal as well.
Yeah, and there's a gray area of when you're fundraising, you do solicit people, but Jeffrey Epstein had a reputation for decades.
Right, and you know what was known and when it was known; those are going to be the key questions that will have to be answered this week. What we all now in the public know as of today would have seemed just fantastical and horrific, and I mean it is horrific, but almost invented just a few years ago, and so he's had a reputation. The details of where that reputation came from are just becoming public now, and so the questions of when that reputation was known, what specifics were known by the Clintons remains to be seen, of course.
And this is happening. It was originally going to be behind closed doors in Washington. Then it was going to. Then there was the Clintons who, after being forced to testify, they were subpoenaed, insisting that it be public after day one, after day two, excuse me.
Right.
How are people going to view what they see? Are they going to believe what they see?
I think when it comes to the Clintons, it's impossible to give one answer on that front, because people are going to see whatever comes out of the Clintons through the lens of how they have viewed the Clintons for 3 or 4 decades now, for better or for worse. In terms of the back and forth, setting the terms of these depositions, I think that goes back to things that Secretary Clinton has said on the record, even this past week, which is that if we want to have this aired out in the public, then let's do it in full public view. And quite tellingly, members of the Republican members of this Oversight Committee have refused to just lay it all out there for the public and really want to have, it seems anyway, tight control over what is released and when. Why that is for them to explain to the American people. But I think that one of the few things that all Americans, voters that is, across the entire political spectrum can agree upon right now is that the contents of these files should be made public. There should be accountability for those who are shown to have committed alleged crimes in those files, and the secrecy needs to stop.
Yeah, one Democratic congressman, again, reiterating a call for Donald Trump to testify. And Trump's name coming up in revelations reported by several media outlets in the United States. That's because it's more than a redaction. There are pages that appear to be missing. They're alluded to in the index of that document dumped by the Department of Justice, but they don't appear anywhere. Let's hear a clip from the New Mexico Democratic Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury speaking on Wednesday.
These are the files that the FBI has removed from their public Department of Justice database. The yellow files here are the files that President Trump is hiding. The yellow files here are investigations with a woman who was abused as a minor and who alleged that Donald Trump was her abuser.
So at the end of the day, Christian Hanley, will the air be cleared? You talk about what goes for the Clintons goes for Donald Trump as well. You're either with him or against him. And at the end of the day, the release of these documents, the way they've been released, does it cloud the issue forever?
Forever, that remains to be seen. But the clouding of the issue, I think, is the point. That's the entire point of the redactions, the slow release or relatively slow release, the withholding of so many documents that you just alluded to. Look, the people want accountability. It's really striking the split screen image we have right now in the U.S., where on the one hand we have the British royal family, against whom we fought a revolutionary war for accountability in government, among other things, seeing that the brother of the King of England is being potentially held accountable for his actions for things that were seen in the Epstein files. And at the same time, in the United States, we have seen no one be held to account, despite their being named many multiple times within those files. And again, I think this is one thing that Americans agree should be beyond partisan politics. If someone is reasonably accused with strong evidence of having abused children, then that needs to mean accountability, regardless of their position, their party membership, or anything else.
Will this move the needle during those midterm elections in November?
I mean, I would hate to think in such crass terms. Certainly, this transcends partisan politics. Like I just said, we're talking about horrific allegations of some of the worst criminal activity we can think of. I think that there are many things that could shift the midterms. The Epstein files, Trump's being named multiple times in those files, but also the economy, as well as the horrific actions we've seen by the administration in the streets of the United States, notably in Minneapolis, where American citizens have been shot and killed by people working at the behest of the White House. And so there are many multiple things that could shift the midterms right now, this being one of them.
One final question for you, Christian Hanley. You say that so far no one has been brought up on criminal charges. The Department of Justice stating that if some of the documents are missing, it's because there are ongoing investigations. Your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are I'm not sure how we can truly trust those sort of statements right now. The entire world saw Pam Bondi testify before the House and the Senate. There's clearly a lot that is not being revealed. There is clearly a huge effort to distract the American people and the public around the world from what is contained in these files. And there are clearly some things that even people within the Department of Justice do not want to have released. And so it's hard to take such statements with any sort of credibility.
Christian Hanley, so many thanks for joining us from Washington.
Thank you.